It's only taken 41 episodes, but we finally have the Riddler in Batman the Animated Series. But was it worth the wait? We're going to find out as we talk about if you're so smart, why aren't you rich? Hello friends, welcome back to the show. And if you're new here, thanks for joining me. I'm so excited to have you here. If you're like me and grew up with Batman the Animated Series and became a huge Batman fan today, then this show is for you. I am going through and reviewing each and every episode of Batman the Animated Series on the 25th anniversary of their original air date. So be sure to hit the subscribe so you can see all the episodes.
Oh yeah? Then tell me something, Eddie. If you're so smart, why aren't you rich?
We have a title. Today we're talking about the first appearance of the Riddler. If you're so smart, why aren't you rich? Which originally aired on November 18th, 1992. And be sure to stick around to the end to find out where I rank this episode in my list of favorite episodes.
They have to match wits with the Riddler.
So I've always been a huge fan of the Riddler, and I've talked about it many times in this episode about how there's just been a lack of the Riddler where in places where I think it was opportune for him to be there and almost got him. He wasn't among the villains that were all sitting there playing cards. And in this strange secret of Bruce Wayne, when they're auctioning off, why wouldn't the Riddler be one that they would try to sell the identity of Batman to? And then the one that's most obvious is the Cape and Cowl conspiracy that should have been the Riddler. But enough about that, because now we finally have the Riddler. And this is a fun episode, and we're going to dig into all the details of it right after my 60-second rundown of the episode. The episode starts with Edward Nygma being fired from the company that he works for, where he invented a game, the Riddle of the Minotaur, and he's being fired because he wants to get royalties for all the money that he has made the company in the use of his game. And then, so he gets fired because they don't want to do that, and then Mockridge, who fired him, is now meeting with Bruce Wayne to talk about bringing the amusement park, the Minotaur, to Gotham, where it rightfully owns, and then they see a banner coming across where Mockridge, there's a riddle to Mockridge about the Wasteland. The Wasteland happens to be a club that he owns, and as Batman's trying to figure out why that riddle happened and what ties that in the Batcave, Dick Grayson is playing the game on the computer, the Riddle of the Minotaur. They go to the Wasteland, they find that Mockridge is being taken away because he got captured in these ring things, and then they, and Batman calls him out that he knows who Edward Nygma is, that he's actually the Riddler, and they, so there's another riddle to get rid of Batman that leads him to the giant maze that is a life version of the game, the Riddle of the Minotaur, and Batman kind of cheats his way through there a little bit to get to the end to find out that Edward Nygma has already fled the city. I give up. I have detonated so many bombs on this show.
Oh, that's the hand of fate. When you make a mistake, it picks you up and takes you to another part of the maze.
I'm excited about this episode because I've always been a big fan of the Riddler. From the Frank Gorshin days in the original Batman series, and even John Astin was fun. And in the comics, I've always enjoyed the issues that featured the Riddler. I just like the Riddler. He's such a neat villain. He's more of a gentleman's villain. He's not a brute force kind of aggressive guy, but he has his henchmen to do the fighting, but he's a cerebral mental match for Batman. And so it's always fun seeing Batman go head to head or brain to brain with the Riddler.
Well done, Batman. But have you wits enough to save two people at the same time?
And it's almost like he enjoys the sport of it, enjoys the game of it, that he wants to give Batman a chance to catch him by offering these riddles up. He has such great brain power that he could just devise this perfect crime and get away with it scot-free. But no, he kind of toys with Batman a little bit.
When is the Minotaur's owner as high as an elephant's high?
And that's always been kind of the gimmick in the 60s show. But what I like about this episode is that they take that idea, but then they justify it. So it isn't just that he's throwing out these riddles randomly. He does it with a purpose because Batman calls him out and knows exactly who he is when Batman first meets the Riddler.
The Riddler? What is that, Nygma? Some kind of joke on your name?
He calls him Edward Nygma. He knows exactly who he is. The Riddler is now devised these riddles to lead Batman to the maze to get rid of Batman, to stop Batman, because he doesn't want him in the way because he has figured out who he is.
Batman knows who I am. We'll have to put him and his snot-nosed cohort out of the way first.
This is the first time that I ever caught this. When they have the security guard sitting in the chair, he casts a shadow that makes a question mark on the ground, which I think is just a neat little quick sight gag that the animators threw in there to have a little fun. And also, just to skip to the end real quick, what's amazing about this episode that I love so much is that the Riddler gets away. So he set up all these riddles and he's on the big view screen at the maze, kind of narrating and walking Batman through this. And I think that the implied concept is that Batman and Robin are going to get through this maze and find Mockridge and stop the Riddler. And like most of these episodes end with the Gotham PD paddy wagon there and they're hauling the villain off, or they show the villain in the prison cell at Arkham or whatnot. No, this one ends with Nigma flying away in a plane because he was never there. He was already 2 steps ahead of Batman.
I'm not even in the amusement park, and by the time you get out of the maze, I'll be out of the city.
I think this is, if correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the only episode where at the end the villain gets away.
But we've been searching for the Riddler for months, and he's still out there.
Not only is the Riddler ahead of Batman, but this episode is really kind of ahead of its time. Batman, I believe, used the first palm-top computer in this.
I linked it to my palm-top computer.
This is years before the Palm Pilot PDA came out. And not only that, speaking of this maze of the Minotaur, am I off base in thinking that this might be the first ever escape room?
Which gives you less than 10 minutes to run the maze and find him. But first, throw down your utility belts.
Those are huge now, where you get locked into this room and you got to find these clues to try to get out. And that is essentially what the Riddler has trapped Batman and Robin in, which, speaking of which, would that not be an incredibly cool theme for an escape room? A Riddler, it doesn't have to necessarily be the maze, but a Riddler-themed escape room where you're finding riddles and puzzles and question marks, and the Riddler escape room. Wow. Now I'm just thinking about that. No, somebody please make that. DC, if you're watching, Warner Brothers, please make the Riddler escape room. You'd have people lining up the door.
We've got to use one of these keys.
Yes, but which one?
So it's just great fun to finally see the Riddler in there. And I really like the take that they have on the Riddler in the animated series. Again, it's a little bit different than what we've seen in the past with Frank Gorshin and even John Astin, which is a very different Riddler.
You think I want money? Not anymore. What I want now is you.
And John Glover is absolutely fantastic casting for that. And John Glover, incidentally, if you don't know, this began his kind of long history with DC, where he was, in the 97 Batman and Robin movie, he was the scientist that helped create Bane.
And what a charmer he is.
Later on, in Smallville, the TV show, he played Lionel Luthor.
Don't you dare. I won't let you desecrate your mother's memory like that.
So when it comes time to rank this episode, yes, it's great fun to see the Riddler finally in the series, and I really enjoyed the episodes with the Riddler. For the sake of this list, I do have to look at all elements of that, not just because this is the Riddler, not just because it's nostalgic for me, but is the story hold up well enough to some of the other ones, and the animation and all those other components. And for this one, it's a good story and it's very fun to watch, but I don't think the story is as strong as some of the other episodes that we've seen in the series so far. So for that reason, I had to put it at the number 11 slot. Just below Christmas with the Joker, even though I do kind of tend to favor the Riddler more than the Joker. There's just something special about Christmas with the Joker, with all the Christmas elements and Joker taking over the TV show and really kind of making Batman work for trying to defeat him. But it did beat out Tiger, because as great of a story as Tiger has, it doesn't have kind of the pizzazz and fun villain elements as this one has. So it's a great episode, just not quite top 10 material.
My. Can we actually have a brain beneath that pointy cowl of ours?
So being the first appearance of Riddler, I want to know from you who your favorite Riddler is, or what version of the Riddler is your favorite. Is it the old 60s Riddler, either Frank Gorshin or John Astin, or is it the animated series one, or now we've got a new the Corey Michael Smith that's playing Riddler in Gotham, which is kind of a neat take on an earlier version of the Riddler, or from the Arkham games. I really like kind of the design of the Riddler in that. Or from the comics. Is there a certain comic version that you like better of the Riddler? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this episode, just click that like button. And while you're down there, go ahead and hit the subscribe if you haven't already, because we have another episode coming up tomorrow, November 19th, Joker's Wild, and I don't want you to miss that. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Andy Knode, and I'll see you soon.